Welcome to our Wellness Wheel Workshop, right? Is that what, that's what we should have called it.
Yeah, the
Wellness Wheel Workshop.
So surprised you actually have to do stuff today.
Yes.
I know.
Everybody groans. It's pretty easy. I'm Amy Bidwell.
And I'm Elizabeth Kita. And we are from the Department of Health Promotion and Wellness. And we're going to be talking to you about what wellness encompasses and the different areas that you may feel challenged in, and ways that we can kind of overcome those challenges in your busy lives.
Sorry, I thought it was beer, so I was going for it.
Oh, there we go. So here are some objectives. We'll make this pretty formal to start off with. Some objectives, so hopefully you'll be able to identify the 8 dimensions of wellness. If you don't already know those, hopefully you'll be much more comfortable with those by the end of this session. Different activities and behaviors that can help enhance those different dimensions, and then strategies to achieve optimal wellness yourself through those 8 dimensions of the wellness wheels in your own personal lives, not just for all working adults, but for you particularly. So the 8 dimensions, this is the sample wheel, and this is kind of our go-to in health promotion of wellness of the 8 dimensions that encompass optimal wellness, which we'll get to that a bit in the end here. We have social, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, physical, environmental, financial, and occupational. And this is
We have a nice handout for you.
yes, you'll have this. You don't have to write.
We'll give you
You'll
this
get all
wheel.
this. And this is just a quick little clip to give you. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do too much writing yet. Just sit back and relax for a little while.
We'll give you a take-home thing.
Yeah, and then this is just a quick little overview of what the different dimensions are in case you are not familiar with that.
The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA, created the Wellness Initiative to help people with mental and/or substance use disorders, and all people, live longer, healthier lives by focusing on the 8 dimensions of wellness that connect all aspects of behavioral health. Improving wellness by taking action on each of these dimensions addresses early mortality from treatable and preventable conditions. Embracing wellness is about life and living and becoming the healthiest you possible. Listen to your feelings, express them to people you trust, and maintain a positive outlook. Make it a point to understand your finances, establish good financial habits, and plan for the future. A sense of belonging and a reliable support system help during difficult times. Make at least one social connection daily. Seek advice from peers or support groups. And create healthy friendships. Enhancing your connection to self, nature, and others brings balance and peace to your life. Take time to discover what values and beliefs are most important to you. Look for satisfaction from things you're passionate about, whether it is through work, school, or volunteering. Reduce your risk of many illnesses by increasing activity levels according to your abilities. Getting restful sleep at night, choosing healthy foods, and exploring outdoors to reduce stress and increase energy levels. Be a lifelong learner by expanding your knowledge and finding creative outlets that stimulate your mind and sense of curiosity. Be open to new ideas, insights, and wisdom. A positive environment has a calming effect. Find surroundings that encourage good physical and mental health, and where you also feel safe. At SAMHSA, we envision a future in which people with mental and/or substance use disorders, and all people, pursue optimal health, happiness, recovery, and a full and satisfying life in the community. Wellness is an ongoing pursuit and can be challenging at times, but striving to make small daily improvements is the key to success. For more information and resources about wellness, visit www.samhsa.org. www.samhsa.gov/wellness-initiative.
So that's just kind of gave you an overview of what these different dimensions are. We're going to ask you in a minute to start to get some ideas of what different behaviors are related to these dimensions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the video just one more time, and if you would like, you can start to write down some behaviors that maybe that they discuss in the video, or maybe that you're coming up with on your own related to the piece in the video that relate to the different dimensions of wellness on this wellness wheel. So we're not writing on the wheel yet. This is just to give you an idea. Okay, these are all the 8 dimensions here. We're going to use this for an activity in a minute. But if you just want to start to brainstorm some ideas, because the next part is going to be kind of a little bit more rapid fire of coming up with some pieces. So if you just want to brainstorm, we'll show the video just one more time, and you can start to create a list related to these different dimensions.
The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA, created the Wellness Initiative to help people with mental and/or substance use disorders and all people live longer, healthier lives by focusing on the 8 dimensions of wellness that connect all aspects of behavioral health. Improving wellness by taking action on each of these dimensions addresses early mortality from treatable and preventable conditions. Embracing wellness is about life and living and becoming the healthiest you possible. Listen to your feelings, express them to people you trust, and maintain a positive outlook. Make it a point to understand your finances, establish good financial habits, and plan for the future. A sense of belonging and a reliable support system help during difficult times. Make at least one social connection daily. Seek advice from peers or support groups, and create healthy friendships. Enhancing your connection to self, nature, and others brings balance and peace to your life. Take time to discover what values and beliefs are most important to you. Look for satisfaction from things you're passionate about, whether it is through work, school, or volunteering. Reduce your risk of many illnesses by increasing activity levels according to your abilities, getting restful sleep at night, choosing healthy foods, and exploring outdoors to reduce stress and increase energy levels. Be a lifelong learner by expanding your knowledge and finding creative outlets that stimulate your mind and sense of curiosity. Be open to new ideas, insights, and wisdom. A positive environment has a calming effect. Find surroundings that encourage good physical and mental health, and where you also feel safe. At SAMHSA, we envision a future in which people with mental and/or substance use disorders and all people pursue optimal health, happiness, recovery, and a full and satisfying life and community. Wellness is an ongoing pursuit and can be challenging at times, but striving to make small daily improvements is the key to success. For more information,
I have a pretty good brainstorm list here. Start to So this is going to be the activity that we're going to do. And Rosemary will have a slightly different piece for you where you can actually list out the 8 dimensions and then write a new activity or behavior per dimension. So let me first explain this, and then we can work out with you here. So we're going to do this activity. It's called Pass the Wheel. So we're going to have to kind of close this gap a little bit so we can.
Oh, I can be the runner again.
Okay. Put your steps in. So what you're going to do is everyone has this wheel. And this is going to, our target population for this wheel, the activities and behaviors that we're going to come up with are just going to be working adults. Okay, we're not going to make it very specific for ourselves here. We're going to keep it very broad and open as to behaviors and activities that working adults may do, could do, related to these 8 dimensions. So you're going to have 60 seconds. So that may seem like a lot of time, but some of these dimensions get a little tricky when you're starting to talk about activities and behaviors that relate specifically to that behavior. So So you're gonna have 60 seconds to write one behavior or activity or any, you can do more than one behavior, but at least one behavior with or activity related to this specific dimension. So you choose any dimension on the wheel. So right now you have a blank wheel. You can choose any of the 8 dimensions, and you choose one activity or behavior that a working adult could do to improve this dimension of wellness. So for physical health, something really basic, you could say, all right, you know, that's usually the easiest one. You could say, all right, go to the gym. Okay, go for a walk, take the stairs, you know. So those are different things that could apply really to most populations, but we want to really focus in on the working adult if we can. And then what we'll do is we'll pass the plate to the person, we'll pass them to the left, and then you're going to fill in a new dimension with as many behaviors as you can related to a different dimension that hasn't already been filled in. So after 8 passes, the entire wheel should be complete with multiple behaviors related to each dimension. Who's confused?
Are we filling in each other's wheels?
Yep. So this isn't really
You're
a
gonna do
wheel.
one
This isn't
dimension.
your
This is
shared
your
wheel. Yep,
It's
this
gonna
is
go
a shared
this way.
wheel. This is just a working adult wheel. Okay.
You'll get another wheel at the end, don't worry.
So
you're only filling in-
to the left.
You're only filling in one dimension. So on first round, just pick one to start with, fill in as many behaviors as you can.
And then we're
We'll
gonna
say
pass it.
stop, and then you pass it to your left, and the next person has to pick one that has not been filled in yet.
Thank you.
Pretty simple, right?
All right, so, and we'll do it 8 times through the 8 dimensions. So you're
And
not,
I put activities or behaviors, so things, it could be things that you would normally do regularly, or someone would normally do in their daily life, or maybe something they go above and beyond and do as, you know, something scheduled into their daily life. So it doesn't have to be, it can be scheduled, or it can be just something that's a normal routine. Okay?
I've got the timer on my watch.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, you guys ready? Go, fill out one dimension.
One little slice of that wheel.
And Rosemary, if you want to just get a piece of paper if you want, and just write out the 8 dimensions, and just come up with a couple behaviors for each one.
And then you can share out for the next part of the activity.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Rosemary.
That's a good question.
So one dimension.
Just
would
one
be
dimension.
pie.
One piece of the
slice
pie.
I like the pie thing.
There's always
I can
one
relate to
every
that.
crowd.
Yes, one piece of the pie. Switch. Okay.
To the left?
To the left.
To the left.
All right, round 2, go ahead.
Can we write the same thing in the same?
No, you want
It
to.
has to be a different piece of the pie. But it might be the same behavior, right? It could, it could be. So maybe different piece of the pie, but it might be, again,
If you want to use the same piece of the pie, just use different behavior.
Different behavior for that.
Really make things
Can I
nice.
start now? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
She's a teacher by trade, that's.
So we just do one example.
It gets hard as you continue. It's easy right now. Switch.
Not that.
Advancements.
Getting harder.
All right, go ahead. We didn't have a potty training. Oops, sorry, Rosemary.
She's still on there.
Yeah.
Rosemary, can you still hear us?
Loud and clear, you guys.
I just muted it though, I think.
Okay, switch.
So.
She was already, she already had muted her. So you.
Oh, I can see
you
it
might
over
have-
here, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just muted it.
you're like our students trying to get that one last word in. Go ahead.
The person next to me starts elbowing me because they don't have any time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I could do this.
Switch. And begin.
Does 1 minute seem like it's working well for you guys?
This is how they handle the stressful part.
Oh, this is wellness.
Yeah.
That's not helpful.
Switch. And begin.
Oh, 2 left, only 2 left.
And switch.
Only 2 more minutes. This is the longest 8 minutes of your life.
And begin. All right, last one, switch. Say it. And again.
We always save the worst for last for environmental.
Sorry for not doing that sooner.
I didn't even know they were out.
All right, and that is it. Well done. So what we're gonna do, before we get into kind of your own personal wellness wheel, let's continue with this whole concept of what a general adult working population should focus on. So what we wanna do, and Rosemary, you can pop in whenever you'd like here, but what we're gonna do is just basically make a list of what you guys have come up with, as far as, again, focusing on not necessarily yourself, but the working individual as the population that we're dealing with. Okay, so who wants to start? Let's start with emotional. What do you guys come up with for emotional?
There's a good one on here, somebody put, listen to relaxing, smooth jazz instrumentals, and I remember listening to a podcast that said like the 3 things that like make most people happier: listening to music they like physical activity, and socializing with people.
Nice.
For most people.
Nice, I like that. I wonder, are there any podcasts that are relaxed, like, have you guys ever heard of John Kabat-Zinn? I don't know if he does podcasts yet, but if there's anything you could write down, if you experience a lot of kind of stress / depression, that type of stuff, John Kabat-Zinn, it's John, and then I think it's Cabat and then Zin. He does an amazing kind of meditation workshop, and his books are awesome. Great summer read. That's just my one. There's some good apps.
What is it?
Some apps. What are some apps? So there's some apps out there that people could use to really focus on emotional wellness. I mean, I know the Apple one, and I actually took it off. Do you have it on yours? Is it the meditate or the?
Yeah, the white noise. Why use?
No, the meditation.
Yeah, it has all the ones. I use the white noise.
Yeah, I know that Apple Watch comes with like a stop and relax. You know, it also does like the get up every 10 minutes, but you can set it so that you have to stop and basically take a breath every hour. I think it is. I turn that off. I don't have time for that, right? It's called breath. Breath. That's what it's called.
There's Mood Kit and Happiness. They're like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy apps that can help you recognize like destructive thought patterns and then like work on changing those thought patterns.
That's
For
interesting. Yeah.
anxiety and depression.
Great. Any other apps or anything else for emotional? What are some other things you guys have in front of you? You may not have written them yourself, but somebody on your wheel did.
Hug a friend.
Hug a friend. I like that one. And if we wanted to cross dimensions here, because that might also fall into social as well. Hug a friend.
And compliment somebody
Compliment someone.
and encourage someone who's down.
Oh, I like that one. It's funny, my husband took my daughter on a field trip yesterday for school, and he was texting me saying that there's this friend that she has. He's like, I love her so much because she keeps complimenting my daughter, Hannah, on what they were doing, some sort of art thing. And the girl kept complimenting Hannah, saying, oh, that looks so great. And she was so uppity and like happy all day over that. So I definitely agree with that. What else? Anything else?
Huge on here, and I didn't write it. Laughter.
Oh, yes. There should be a
I
laughter
learned so
app.
much about how laughter is so good for your well-being.
I like that one. Anything else?
Write in a journal.
Make your home or office a common.
Did you guys hear that?
Make your home or also office a common space. I like that. Something
Calming.
Yeah.
calming. Oh, Mary Pagan, she's in our department, if you know her, but she, in fact, I kind of broke into her office the other day to see if I could get some air in my office. But anyways, as soon as I walked in there, have you been in there recently? I love it there. That's exactly what it is. And she deals with all the academic probation students, people on academic probation, and she does that purposely to make it kind of like a calming.
Just blankets and pillows.
And it's the hard look, it's just something about it. Where else can this fall?
Just make the home or office.
Is it
Environment.
environment?
I was wondering if laughter could fall into another one. Depending on if you're laughing by yourself or not, which might be a little goofy, but. I was thinking social, but that's just me. Rosemary, did you want to add to emotional at all? I don't want to leave you out.
Write in a journal. Write your feelings in a journal.
No. I'm sorry, what's your name?
Did you hear that?
Laughter. What about in physical? Because we know we're using all of those muscles, like, I don't know even how many muscles it is that we're using when we're laughing.
Yeah, don't they say it takes more?
To frown than it does to smile.
Yeah.
I need to grow more.
Yeah, I mean, not if you're hugging at the same time.
You got crossfit.
All right, how about intellectual? I think this one might be, I mean, it's pretty difficult. What did we come up with for intellectual?
Continuing research.
Continuing research, I like that one. What else?
Participate. I was like, really?
Book club, that's something that we've talked about in our department. I would love to have a book club. I think that would be so much fun. Let's get on that.
I have like four.
But it has to be a good one.
Yeah, not an academic book. It needs to be like,
No.
No.
Banned.
Go to a lecture?
go to a lecture, definitely. Watch a TED Talk, that's a good one too. I thought this would be a hard one, you guys are, we can tell we're dealing with a bunch of people in the academic setting.
Learn a new skill.
Learn a new skill.
Cooking class.
Can any of these cross over?
The book club could also be social. Definitely. Attend lecture, I could see going someplace. Occupational. Anything new for intellectual? You can read your writing, the writing on your. Take a class. We're taking this class/workshop this summer, and it was funny because we just registered for it and they gave us this list of things that we have to do to prepare, and I actually got excited. And my husband's like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Well, it is summer. It's not like there's a ton of other things to do, but it was exciting."
$15 transcript fee.
Anyways,
Listen to yourself.
a podcast, definitely.
I was like putting the plug in for self there on there.
The T for teaching.
Yeah.
I heard they're really good. I don't know if I know how to listen to a podcast. Is there like an app of podcast? Anything else for intellectual? How about environmental? We already have the calming space.
Lighting, air conditioning.
Lighting, air conditioning, heat, oh, that's, I went into our office the other day, there's no heat and, or no air in park right now, at least on the floor. And I was absolutely miserable, like miserable. Even walking into Mary's office didn't help me that much, but I was miserable. So definitely for me, it's AC, I'm okay with never seeing heat again. I shouldn't say that. What else for environmental?
And air quality too.
Air quality.
Yeah, like allergies.
Bring a plant to work.
Bring a plant to work. Yes, we have lots of those in our office. By the way, I just watered yours Tuesday. What else?
Our plants seem to die.
Uh-oh, bring it to me. I am the plant whisperer.
I am the plant killer.
Oh, bring it to me. I'm the plant whisperer. Fake plants. There you go. What else for environmental? Neighborhood cleanup. Yeah.
Organized workspace.
Oh, that's a
Yeah,
good one.
that's a good one.
There was a thing on the internet. I saw an article about mothers and how much they get stressed with their kids leaving stuff on the floor, and that the spouse oftentimes doesn't understand the anxiety that it actually brings to the person. I mean, that's me. I mean, it really, And if they just picked up one thing, the anxiety of the other person would just, so environmental, definitely keeping an organized space, workspace. What else?
Make it a point to get natural sunlight each day.
Yes, that's a good one. How about taking vacation? Would that go into environmental? I don't know.
You're changing your.
Yeah. How about financial? What do we have for financial?
Retirement plan.
Retirement planning, excellent one.
Purchase rentals.
Purchase what?
Rentals.
Rentals, I thought you said Mentos. Retirement, property, investments, yep, so that would kind of be with property, yep.
Just looking over like your statements.
I just heard that, so, on something, I think it was the, I don't remember where I saw it, but it said that you're supposed to look at your statements, your bank statements, once a month.
Budgeting.
What's that?
Budgeting.
Budgeting, yes, budgeting.
Start a vacation budget.
Vacation budget. Holiday budget. Think of how stressful you get over the holidays. And I do know some companies do like a holiday fund. You can have taken, my friends that work at Kraus have this. You can get money taken out of your paycheck each week to go into a holiday fund. And then at the holidays, you withdraw it, and it's for whatever you want to spend it with.
Christmas, I was just gonna say Christmas.
Yeah.
College savings.
College savings. How about just savings in general? Do we even have like just savings? What are you supposed to have 6 months worth of your salary saved for an emergency? Yeah. How about physical? What do we have for physical? We have laughter already.
Eating healthy.
What's that?
Eating healthy.
Eating healthy.
Go for a walk.
Go for a walk.
Or run.
Or run.
Or bike.
Or bike. How about exercise? Be active. Increase play with kids. I like that one.
I'm done.
You know, that's the thing with physical is that you have to understand you don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to, I mean, it's just being active. Something as simple as playing with your kids, going for a walk with your children, going for a bike ride, walking your dog, you know, parking a little bit further away at the grocery store, that type of stuff. Sleep, someone got in there? Yes.
My colleague and I use the bathroom on the third floor. Our office is on the first floor, so we walk up the stairs.
That's
Get there.
actually really good.
Gotta get there
Yeah.
first.
See, we have to do that all the time because every time I have to use the bathroom in park and the first floor, it's being cleaned. So, how about, I'm going a little faster because I want to get through to our next thing, but what about spiritual? Meditate.
Yoga.
Yoga.
Go for a walk and pray.
Go for a walk and pray.
Or meditate.
Be with yourself.
Or meditate, be with yourself.
Attend like church, synagogue.
Attend some sort of spiritual setting. Services, thank you. Which a lot of those could also be social, the spiritual, the religious services and yoga. How about occupational?
Enjoy doing what you're doing.
Enjoy doing what you're doing. I like that one.
Learning things at work.
Learning new
Trying.
things. Yep. Attend CELT workshops.
Nice commercial.
What actual activities though? So enjoy what you're doing. How do you enjoy?
Team building activities, working with colleagues.
Enjoy working with who you're working with, because that can affect your well-being. If you don't like who you're working with.
I should sail.
Take a career.
And that's thing, you know, if you are in an environment where you're with somebody that you might not necessarily get along with in your work environment, as Elizabeth just alluded to, sometimes you can't change that, but it's how you deal with it and how your overall wellness, you know, you can make it so that it's going to increase your emotional stress or even your physical stress, but it's how you deal with it. Okay, I think we have a really nice list. What we want to do now is go one step further, and this is kind of where we have something for you to actually take home, is we have the wellness wheel again, okay? And this time what you're gonna do is actually write down information for yourself. So now that you have an idea of what each dimension is, and some ideas of what behaviors and activities you can do for each dimension, now this isn't something that we're gonna take ourselves, you guys are gonna take it home. So think of your own wellness wheel. What are things that you personally can do to help each aspect of the wheel? So now, and it needs to be, or should be, something that's feasible. Okay, so if you looked at financial health and wellness and you wanted to improve, you wanted to create 6 months worth of savings, but you can't even save $5 each week, it's probably not feasible. So make sure it's something that you could actually do. Okay, so we'll take a few minutes for you guys to, they were doing this individually, right?
Yeah, and Rosemary, you can chat about it and so on, but it is very personal, so if it's not something you want to share, we're not going to ask you to share this out afterward.
So this is just for you to
Maybe
kind of
not, but I
know.
can.
Well, because there's not one for Rosemary.
Oh, there's
We could bring that.
Oh, I was gonna just
Just
tell
say-
Rosemary. Rosemary, if you're looking at the screen now, which I'm sure you are, this is exactly what is in front of everyone right now, that they're filling out this entire wheel with their own personal behaviors and activities related to each dimension.
If you want to just tell her, email.
Thank you.
Right, and we can email that to you if you'd like to. We just don't have the extra time we can expect it to turn out.
I actually have it.
I don't think our speaker is working on this end, so I don't know what you're saying.
Can you chat with her on the phone?
Yeah, I don't think you can hear me.
Just tell her. Does anybody need a sign-in sheet? Yeah, I think. You want those badges, or I don't want just those short badges. See, what you should do is write this out and then put it on your fridge. We put it on cardstock for a reason.
Somebody put me drink more water on this.
Oh, did I?
They did.
Yeah.
Oh, I just.
Steve, I'll bring it over.
I'm just slow. I'm so slow. So as we're winding down, I know you guys still have some, work that you're probably writing, thank you, but I just wanted to go over something and how this kind of all comes together. This is the wellness spectrum. And obviously our goal is always to achieve this optimal wellness. In order to achieve optimal wellness, we really need all 8 dimensions functioning. It's not necessarily that they're gonna all be perfect, but there has to be some sort of, functionality in each one. And what happens is as you decrease, so if you look at our pie and think about as you start cutting pieces off and losing them and they're no longer there, your pie starts to get smaller and smaller And as you do that, you get closer and closer to the opposite side, which is disease, okay? It doesn't necessarily need to be a physical disease, but there's so many types of diseases, and what people don't realize is all these 8 dimensions affect our whole entire body, inside and out, okay? People oftentimes always think of diet as, so if we look specifically at diet, we think what we put in our body affects, our overall body, but something as simple as our thoughts. Chronic stress, there's a lot of diseases like, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, MS, a lot of those autoimmune disorders are associated with high levels of stress. So again, as your wheel gets smaller and smaller and you start to lose pieces of it because you're not optimizing each dimension, you start to move further to the left and start to have this kind of overall, discomfort in your body, and it eventually leads to decreases in physical ability, emotional ability, and our overall wellness. So really it's important to look at the whole picture, and this is really where, Dr. Keita does a lot with overall wellness, whereas I tend to focus a little bit more with the physical part. Elizabeth can talk more about, how it's so important to really focus on the 8 dimensions, and we get so caught up in just 1 or 2 of them. And you might be, and I know this for myself, I might focus a lot on the physical side of things, but other sides, other dimensions for me might start to fail. And now it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm really healthy because I exercise regularly. It's just that 1/8 of my wellness wheel is efficient, and that's not enough to maintain overall wellness. So maybe if you want to mention a little bit more about kind of the whole spectrum, more than what I already said.
No, I think you pretty much covered it. It's not just really that you're missing that piece, it's that it's not being practiced. So that's where we kind of fall off the wagon to say here and go down to irreversible damage and then premature death. So having at least one thing in each of these areas, and even a second as a backup in case something isn't working well, then I think that's what's really ideal, is to just have ideas, have things that you encompass daily, so you can help keep these levels really high and stay kind of more in that green or yellow color of the spectrum. It shows up different on every single computer that we show it on. So we have a few minutes, and if you don't feel like you have a complete wheel, if you want to chat a little bit with us, we're here. Or if you want to chat as a group, I know this is a really personal thing, and I don't really feel comfortable. I know my students don't always feel comfortable sharing it, and I know that our department does this really regularly because this is all we talk about. So if anyone does want to chat a little bit and think about different ways, maybe if you're struggling in a certain area, we're happy to come up with some activities and chat about that.
But it's kind of like a domino effect, because if you are eating better, you're exercising, therefore you're losing weight, therefore you feel better and you're more positive. Or you have maybe there's a death in the family or something, so therefore you're now more secluded, you're kind of pulling away, you might be eating unhealthy or something like that, so it just kind of goes.
Absolutely, and that's why SAMHSA overlaps these dimensions. It doesn't look nice and it's not separated like these actual separate pieces, because once
It's
you
like the
lose
one you
one,
have.
then it may fall into another one, and that's when this whole piece tends to fall apart. So yeah, that overlapping of the dimensions is really important, because they are also interdependent on each other. And I don't even know how accurate this is. I don't think this can even be very different. All of these circles should overlap.
How many of you guys just have, and again, this is personal, so maybe you don't want to answer, but I'll start by answering no for myself, that I have all 8 dimensions where I think they should be. I'm going to say no for myself. And if somebody has yes, if you want to share some tips on how you're doing it, my guess is you probably don't, just because you're here. But is there anybody that feels like they're pretty close to maybe, feeling like all of them are optimized? No one's perfect.
Oh, come on.
Do you think it's possible to have all of them, functioning at,
It depends on how lucky you are.
Right.
If things get hit at you and you don't have control over it. That's why someone said something about it's how you react to those things that are put on your plate that you have no choice. Of course, hardships are going to make you feel sad, knock you down for a while. It's about not letting yourself stay down there, finding a way to make yourself feel better. And I think it's always going to be a work in progress, and especially if certain people are hit harder than others.
And I think they can always be there, just to at what level or what degree. Yeah, and sometimes when you're really focusing on one, maybe some of the others tend to fall off. You know, if you looked at, say, physical, there's people that we've dealt with many times that focus so much on the physical that because they're focusing so much on the physical, some of the other ones actually fall off. And then it could be, and this is something, especially, you know, we kind of said this for advisors, and one thing I had asked Allison originally was, is this wellness for you personally or information to give to your advisees? One thing that I noticed with my students, at least, is that during stressful times like midterms and finals, they're focusing so much on the environmental, or excuse me, on the intellectual on this, that so many of the other aspects fall off. And I know usually it's physical, something as simple as they tend to eat less healthy, they tend to exercise less. And so as far as some tips that you can give your own students, you know, I think that's the thing, is really getting our students to kind of understand that there's actually 8 dimensions here that they need to really focus on. And you see this even in grade school, you know, they focus so much on the intellectual, and they kind of forget about everything else. Some of these, obviously, for reasons they can't focus on all of them, but, you know, there's so much research that says that if you actually just were physically active 5 minutes every hour, that 5 minutes that you lose from, say, studying or learning, you actually gain that much more because you've actually increased your brain function. Just think of it as increasing blood flow to your brain. And there's a ton of research on physical activity and Alzheimer's and dementia, cognitive functions.
I think another point, like for ourselves and for our students, is that when you're trying to build a new habit or like work in a new behavior, it takes time, so you can't just like revamp every part of the wellness wheel, or, you know, build 8 new habits all at once.
Right.
Like you really need to focus on probably just 1 or maybe 2 things at a time.
The other thing is bringing awareness to it. You may be already practicing 6 of these. It's just bringing out those behaviors, and that's kind of what we want to do with you today. Like, which behaviors, you know, do you think fall into these dimensions? And just by listing them on the order, what we kind of bring those about. So yeah, hopefully you only have to focus on a couple, and then, you know, a couple maybe aren't working 100% for you, move on and revamp as time goes.
Our next, next, okay, I run a wellness program for students. I'm sure some of you have heard about, it's called Bounce. And I know that we've been in discussions about possibly doing a similar Bounce course for class for professionals, you know, the professional staff and faculty on campus. So that's something that if there's an interest, we might push that into this population. So for people that, and a lot of it's just, you know, meeting once a week and discussing. I mean, we have an actual program, but it's really just about learning what works for you. It's not, you know, a magic bullet, you know, magic pill or anything. It's more coming up with issues in your own habits in your own life and ways you can improve it. So, you know, depending on how things progress, we might actually try to implement that at some point. Keep your eyes and ears open for that. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you guys for coming.